Hi everyone, my name is George Kwon. I'm Senior Director of Product Management at Okta. Really excited to be here with you today to talk a little bit about how automation can really help you with your identity management problems. I'm going to be joined up on stage with Mohan from T-Mobile. I'll guide us through the first half of the presentation where I'm going to talk about automation, identity management, a new offering that we call lifecycle management workflows. And then in the second half, Mohan's going to take over and walk you through how T-Mobile has leveraged lifecycle management workflows in the real world with some real world use cases. Before we dive into the presentation, just a quick safe harbor statement. Just a reminder that there may be some forward-looking statements throughout this presentation. So what I want everyone to walk away with today after this presentation is the idea that automation should really be a key part of your identity management strategy. This might be a little bit controversial. Automation integration has gotten a bit of a bad rap in the industry because traditionally implementing integration and automation has been challenging. It's costly, brittle, hard to maintain. I want to talk to you a little bit about how technology and Okta have changed the game here and how this should cause you to rethink about the role of automation in your identity management strategy. As I kick this off, let me talk a little bit about, from our vantage point as Okta, what we're hearing as some of the top problems of the day facing the identity industry. Certainly number one top of mind is how to enable a increasingly remote and mobile workforce. How do you provide that access in a secure manner? Big problem. The other is with the explosion of users and apps and resources, not only your employees, but your extended workforce. How do you manage all of this access at scale? How do you keep your users productive? How do you keep your teams operational and efficient, all while maintaining compliance posture and sanity around all the chaos? And finally, a lot of teams are under pressure to transform so that their customers can really have the best experiences and make use of technology. Okta is helping our customers in all three of these areas through our range of products and platform services. Today, where I really want to focus is this middle problem. More users, more resources, how do we manage it? So let's talk a little bit about this problem of identity management, starting with a little bit of history. The challenge here really is juggling all of these different priorities and needs. On one hand, you have your end users who need access now. You have teams that are strapped for resources that are always looking to get more efficient. You have security and compliance knocking at the door, telling you, hey, this is your responsibility too. How are you making sure that all of the people and resources you manage are being managed in a responsible way? All of these pressures are extremely hard to manage. Historically, there have been tools dating back to UAP, user access provisioning, identity management suites, your Active Directory. You've employed these tools to help you with that operational efficiency for managing things at scale. With the rise of SOCs, there was a rise of a growing set of IGA tools, taking advantage of this need in the market for managing compliance. IGA tools rose and built a set of capabilities like access certification, access requests, role mining, segregation of duty policies, all of these things to help you manage the compliance posture of your most critical applications. And in some cases that overlapped with your existing tools. Okta really entered the identity management picture when we released our lifecycle management product a number of years ago. I had the opportunity to be directly involved in that launch. Our primary value proposition there was, how do we help you provision application access and accounts to a rising, a growing set of cloud and SaaS resources. We did that in a way that was a first for the industry. We made provisioning and those integrations easy. When a user joined or left your directory, we could automatically provision accounts and deprovision access on the back end. And how did we do that? We did that through out-of-the-box integrations, calling public APIs against all these SaaS services. We built these integrations, we supported them so that you didn't have to. And therefore, for the first time in the industry, the time to value for implementing provisioning really hit a point that had never been seen before, where previously these integrations were handcrafted by system integrators or your own developers. As we went on this provisioning journey, we really were a driving force behind the SCIM standard. We knew we could build some integrations on behalf of our customers, but we wanted to grow that ecosystem of integrations through standards. We pushed SCIM over the years, and it's really incredible to have seen the progress. To date, we now have, I believe, well over 230 integrations where ISVs have implemented the SCIM standard and submitted an integration to the Okta integration network. And now all of our customers are able to leverage those integrations out of the box. And of course, not everything's cloud and SaaS, so we have a number of partners we work with who help our customers connect to on-premise apps or difficult apps without that API surface area. So really together, we offer a range of integrations and really make provisioning easy. So that was Okta's foray into this picture. However, when you take a step back, identity management, end user productivity, operational efficiency, security, it's not just about provisioning and fulfillment. And what we've really heard from our customers is they still feel very underserved in terms of technology and tools to solve their day-to-day problems. Yes, they may have a compliance problem under control. They've scaled their provisioning activities, but there's still quite a bit of manual toil, custom scripts, and their existing IAM toolkits aren't really built to be extended or things that they can really leverage to solve more of these problems. So what we heard from our customers was what you did with provisioning and automation there and making that easy was great. What can you do to help us automate more of our identity management business processes? What can you do to streamline those processes through automation? Can you help us do more? We took that challenge straight on. We went back to the drawing board, and what we came up with was something pretty exciting. Something we launched earlier this year into GA called Lifecycle Management Workflows. Now what this is a automation platform for identity teams. It's a low-code platform that makes it easy to automate any business process and do so in a way that's very quick, easy to maintain, those same qualities that we were able to bring to the table with provisioning, we've maintained and even furthered with lifecycle management workflows. There's a bunch of things people can solve, and it's been amazing to see what our customers have done with this product. They're streamlining onboarding processes for new employees. They're implementing policies that help them be more compliant. They are getting rid of custom scripts. A lot of great use cases, which I'll go into in a little bit more detail. And then, as I mentioned, love to get Mohan up here as well to give his take and his perspective on how T-Mobile has leveraged this. A couple slides here just on how lifecycle management workflows works. Well, if you can say the words, if this, then that, and do this, you can automate that business process with lifecycle management workflows. And you can do that without writing any code, without hosting or maintaining any integrations. Let's give a couple examples. Let's say you want to be notified or kick off an onboarding process. So when a user is added to your Active Directory or Okta Universal Directory, create a ticket in ServiceNow with that user's name and profile and kick off the onboarding of that user. Or maybe you want to keep an eye on risky behavior or particularly sensitive activities. For example, a global admin was created in one of your key systems. When that happens, immediately alert me on Slack. Maybe log that event in a spreadsheet so that we have a record of that activity. A common problem we hear about is managing orphaned accounts, whether that's for your employees or your extended workforce. With lifecycle management workflows, you can search a directory like Okta Universal Directory every 30 days and find inactive users, users who haven't logged in for 30 days, and automatically suspend those accounts, greatly reducing your compliance surface area and overhead. Similarly, how do you streamline some of your reporting? Every 90 days, go and find me members of certain groups, give me a list of accounts, and put those into a spreadsheet in Office 365 so I can easily send that around and meet some of my internal compliance requirements. These are just a couple examples. The, again, variety of things that you can do with this platform is immense. But even with these use cases, you start to see the power of automation to really be an important toolkit for your identity management strategy. What does this product look like? Well, straight from the Okta product, you can launch a designer console that looks something like this, a set of cards, again, low code. Within this environment, you can build your automations and workflows. You have a couple things at your disposal. You have out-of-the-box connectors to call various apps and services to automate certain actions. Send me a Slack message, add a user in Okta, remove a user from a group. All of these things are possible with point and click through connectors that are built and maintained by Okta, again, so that you don't have to. There are some tools here as well to call any API. So if the connector is not there, as long as you can make you have a publicly available API endpoint, you can call that endpoint directly from Workflows, whether that's an internal app or another service. We also provide a library of functions, really to mimic any sort of business logic. If statements, loops. We have a set of tables to hold data, to transform data. So with these tools, again, it's drag and drop, but extremely powerful, enabling your a variety of personas, from people familiar with code who write code all the way to potentially folks in the line of business to build an automation. We're really excited about this offering. We've seen immense traction over the last few months that this product has been GA. The product is available as part of our advanced lifecycle management SKU. So whether you are an existing customer or prospect, please contact Okta to learn more about this. I want to leave you with one more point, and then again, I'd like to turn it over to the real professional, Mohan from T-Mobile, to talk about how they've leveraged this platform. I'd like to leave you with one more thought, which is, as you're thinking about modernizing your toolkit and your identity management practice, I challenge you to think about what your priorities are. Are your priorities compliance around a few of those keys to the kingdom apps? That is a legitimate problem and something that governance products can be really good at. Or is your primary goal and priority right now to enable the business, to improve your operational efficiency, to streamline some of those security or compliance activities? Well, then I encourage you to think about lifecycle management workflows and the role of automation to really give your team a boost and deliver incredible time to value. And for some customers out there, you may need both products. We see a lot of convergence across IGA and lifecycle management. And yes, while there is some overlap, these two products offer distinct advantages and capabilities. and many of the analysts also agree, don't get hung up on one tool that solves everything. As you all know, there really is no such thing as one thing for everything, and often you end up with multiple tools to solve different problems, and I think that that's still the case here with lifecycle management workflows. So thanks everyone for listening through that. I'm gonna get out of the way and would like Mohan to take over and walk you through T-Mobile's journey. And I'll join you all at the back half of the presentation to close things out. Thanks.
Thank you, George, for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about T-Mobile's Okta Workflow implementation. My name is Mohan Ramaswamy. I am with T-Mobile USA, a senior manager for identity and access management. I've been with T-Mobile for 12 years and 20 plus years overall in the IT industry. I have focused on application development, service-oriented architecture, as well as identity access management throughout my career. About T-Mobile USA. T-Mobile is America's supercharged Un-carrier, delivering advanced 4G LTE and transformative 5G network that offers reliable connectivity for all. Our real use case for Okta Workflow came through one of T-Mobile applications during our integration with Sprint. The application was requesting frequent ad hoc requests to assign roles and store attributes for their users. So we considered giving group access to the application team itself, but we did not want to give the access to administer user profiles. So we started thinking, how can we achieve this? Because we have a lot of work with the integration efforts. My goal was twofold. One was to remove my ops engineers from having to do this manually. And then the second was to provide self-service to the application team so that they can, manage their users as they like. So I started thinking and doing some research on Okta Workflow and how I could possibly use that to solve this situation. I concluded that it would be the best option. It did not require any real coding. I could start it and hand it over to my ops engineers to finish up. It required no infrastructure setup. It was on the cloud as other Okta identity SaaS platforms. It provided easy access to integrate with Slack messaging platform, and it provided out-of-the-box calls to retrieve and manipulate Okta data. So I basically started this on a Friday morning, started development on my own, and worked through the weekend, all in all, about 16 hours of work on the workflow. And by Monday, I had it running in production and presented to my application team members that they could basically send a Slack message and the IDM Okta workflow would pick it up and process it and respond within 5 minutes. So the end result is, we removed my ops team member from having to do this manually. It was error-free because what is put into the Slack message is processed, and it is a quick SLA, 5 minutes to turn around. Whereas if my ops engineers was to do it, they have all of other things going on, so it might take some time. The Okta workflow is a no-code automation tool where you don't need a skilled developer to create or maintain it. Ops engineers, system analysts, and et cetera can create these workflows easily. All it requires is logical thinking and how to connect the activities together. It has a lot of connectors that provides quick access to Okta users, user manipulations, as well as integrations with third-party systems. There are a variety of ways to expose your code, event-based, schedule-based, as well as APIs that makes it easy for you to automate any solutions that you might think of. Okta Workflow also facilitates tables where you can store your data specific to your needs. And of course, it does not replace a full database, but for simple data storage requirements, it is a great solution. As I said before, it integrates with third-party products such as Slack, O365, ServiceNow, and really makes it easy to, do your workflow to your needs. Some things to consider as you use Okta Workflow is that it's not meant to be your main software development platform. It's not meant for business process, but really to facilitate automation. As I stated earlier, the advantages are several. You don't have to be a programmer. Your ops engineers can easily handle the tasks at hand. You can easily invoke Okta API using the out-of-the-box functions. Easily expose simple process to your clients. And several third-party apps connectors allows you a variety of ways to invoke your automation solution. So I would like to talk about 3 use cases that we took on with Okta Workflow. The first one is managing users via Slack channel. So this is the one where we were integrating with Sprint, and we required the application team to manage their own users easily. The second use case is providing our cybersecurity response team with an API for fast, quick response for potential suspected accounts. And then the third use case is to grant temporary MFA exemption via Slack. The first use case I would like to talk to you about today is the managing users via Slack channel. With the Sprint merger, one of our applications required to manage their user role assignments as well as user profiles in a very ad hoc means. They were submitting several tickets, and it was impacting my ops team member in doing other work that was necessary to meet the integration timelines. So we created a workflow where they can paste the message that consists of the identity of the user, what role they should get, and what stores they should get. They can submit 10 users at a time, and the workflow will pick them up and process them by, number one, standardizing the message, validating the input, splitting the message into a separate set of lists, and then calling a child flow for each of the lines that was in the message. And then it would message back to that Slack channel, basically, telling if it was successful, any error message, what kind of activity did it do? Did it do the role assignment, or did it do the store assignment, etc.? This was pretty successful. Took me about 16 hours, as I said earlier, and it's probably a effort that really paid back for the level of work that was input into it. So as you can see, the high level of the workflow here, we have a task activity that is listening on the Slack channel. It is a private Slack channel, so only certain people can paste messages to it. Okta polls that Slack channel for messages every 5 minutes, and that is, of course, configurable. And then we have a series of activities here and if then else activities that basically, just like if you're programming it in Java or any other language, you have logic there to control the manipulation of the data, the validation of the data, and processing of the data. Once I have created a list of arrays, I'm able to submit to the child flow each one of those items, and within the child flow, I determine whether what kind of action needs to be done for that user, and the Okta activities are called, such as adding group membership and editing the user profile. for that user. And in the end, for each of the records, it outputs a Slack message, as well as for the overall process, it outputs a Slack message. So this is a screenshot of the process in a detailed view. Each of the display cards, as they call it, provides a activity for you. You have one, the startup process, which is the polling of the Slack message. You have continue if statements. You also have on the far right, if else statements or processes that is taken care of. In this slide, you see the, this is where the array of, if you batched up 10 requests in one message, it is split into arrays, and then each of the item in the array list, it calls a child flow, which then processes the message. And this is just a simple shot of the child flow. You have, a determination of what is the exact things that the process needs to do. And then if the user requires group membership addition, it'll do that. And then if it requires store modifications, it does that. So in conclusion here, it may seem, what I've shown here is just a simple view of the process, and it is easy to create. Just remember, when you do the Okta workflow, if it gets too complex, it might be too hard to follow. So you would want to, pick the right type. And actually, this process, when I first created it, I did it incorrectly and made it more complicated than it needs to be. So you just need to kind of take your time to understand, keep it simple, and it definitely allows you to create it easily and fast. Very similar to that, we needed, this is the use case 2, we needed a fast cybersecurity response, and we wanted to offer that to the cybersecurity response team with an API. So in this use case, our T-Mobile cybersecurity needed a quick and easy way to suspend and restore suspected users from their console. The solution, of course, was to expose it as an API so that their UI and their system can simply call the API, which is run by the Okta workflow, and this is the process. So here, cybersecurity will invoke a action to suspend the user. They will call the API, which is the endpoint that is being exposed by the workflow. The workflow will retrieve the user. It'll remove the existing sessions of that user. It will suspend the group, add them to a suspended group so that the user cannot log back in. And then it will notify the user's manager of that incident. In order to restore the cybersecurity in order to restore the user, they would simply call another API, which would retrieve the user, remove them from the suspended group, and then reset their factors, and then notify the manager. This, one of our new employees created this workflow. He had never, he's actually a beginner for Okta itself, much less Okta workflow, but within 1 week, he had this completed, and he demoed it to the cybersecurity team, and they loved it. So he is a developer, but he was able to quickly, learn it and implement it for their needs. The third use case I would like to talk to you about is providing MFA exemptions via Slack message. Very similar to the first use case, we needed an easy way where we could exempt users from MFA if they lost their phone, or if they switch to a new phone or not in a position to set it up. we want to give an easy way to exempt them from MFA temporarily. The Okta does not have that feature, but we decided to do it with this workflow, whereby we would post the credential of the user with, potentially how many days they should get exemption. And then, of course, Okta will poll the Slack channel, and it will do the standardization of the message, validate the input, and then add that user to a table that is internal to Okta. And it will have, effective date and end date of the exemption. And it will add the user to an exemption group at that point. It will also do, of course, a confirmation message back to the Slack channel that it was successfully completed. Here we have a scheduled process that runs nightly, which will go and retrieve the records and look for any MFA exemptions that essentially needs to be restored, because we don't want somebody to have exemptions forever. So that's where the scheduled process would go in and look at the effective end date and remove the exemption, basically removing that user from the exemption group at that point, and then delete that record from the table. So that is the third use case, and that also went into production fairly quickly by the team. So I want to conclude here that the Okta workflow can provide a quick means to automate simple processes that will allow quick return for the investment. It also allows ops team members to use the no-code tool to quickly automate the situations that they see in their production environment. Particularly, specific situations where there might be a data discrepancy that is happening in a particular situation, they will be able to use Okta Workflow to help clean those things up and focus on better things for T-Mobile.
Thank you, Mohan, for walking us through those T-Mobile use cases. Really interesting stuff. Great to always hear these real-world frontline use cases, and really glad we're able to help you and the team with workflows.
Absolutely, it was good.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Mohan, a couple follow-up questions.
Sure.
So first, in that Sprint T-Mobile merger use case that you shared with us, if you didn't have workflows, what would your team have done? What was the alternative?
We would have been in trouble for sure, because the integration timelines were already very tight and we were very low on resources. So facilitating this application for all of their ad hoc needs would have required more resources that we didn't have and more time. So the workflow really came in handy and saved us a lot of trouble, put the power at the applications team's hands, and we were free to focus on, the integration effort. So it really paid off for us.
Gotcha. And maybe the second last question, what's next for T-Mobile and Okta, whether that's workflows or beyond?
What's next for Okta for us? Well, we are looking at the Okta Advanced Access Server as the next big thing for us. We want to, connect our IDP with SSH and cloud systems so that our users utilize the same identity and IDP, where we can, apply the same policies as we would other places within the enterprise. So we are looking forward for Advanced Access Server as our next big thing next year.
That's great. Yeah, and hopefully more workflows as well, yeah?
Absolutely, yes,
Yep.
of course.
Great. Well, with that, Mohan, I want to thank you for joining me during this session. Really great chat and use cases, hopefully useful to our audience. And for our audience, now is a great time to take a coffee break or a stretch break and come right back for the next session. Thank you very much.